Mikel Arteta, the current manager at Arsenal, has been hailed by many fans and pundits as Arsenal's saviour. But I'm here to tell you today that he's a failure. Mikel Arteta was appointed Arsenal manager on the 20th of December 2019, taking over from Arsenal invincible Freddie Ljungberg after a short stint of only 6 games as interim coach. But before I talk about Mikel Arteta, I'll go explain to you the state Arsenal were in. They were trash! Unai Emery was the manager at the start of the 2019-20 season, and in summary, he struggled. He won 5 games out of 19, drawing 9 and losing 5, despite spending around £130 million in the transfer window. His marquee signing was tricky Ivorian winger Nicolas Pepe for a record-breaking £72 million. From the 21st of October until the day he was sacked, Unai Emery managed to get 9 points of a possible 30. Let me just read out a few of these results to you so you can understand the severity of the situation. 2-2 draw to newly promoted Norwich, 2-1 loss to Brighton at home. And the Brighton I'm talking about is not the Brighton of today. They were the relegation avoiding bottom half of the table, meaty team. Man City and the Ginger cooked Arsenal at the Emirates, beating them 3-0. They also lost 1-0 to newly promoted Sheffield United. As a result of this horrible run of games, Arsenal sat in 11th place in December. Now that you understand the horrible state Arsenal were in, let's talk about Arteta's first season in charge. His first game in charge was just 6 days after his appointment and would be against Bournemouth away. The game ended as a 1-1 draw, thanks to Aubameyang rescuing Arteta's first points as Arsenal manager. But the mood was definitely different at the club. It was more optimistic and hopeful, and it didn't take long for that optimism to blossom into points, as Mikel Arteta and Arsenal managed to beat United at home on the 1st of January 2020. This was the start of Arteta's unbeaten streak that lasted 9 games until the 27th of February. On the 27th of February, Arsenal was set to play Olympiacos at home in the round of 32 in the Europa League. Arsenal had taken the lead in the tie, winning 1-0 away at Olympiacos. The game had begun, and Olympiacos would score first in the 53rd minute, making the game a tie on aggregate. So now all was to play for. Arsenal failed to score in 90 minutes, causing the game to go to extra time. It would take 23 minutes into extra time for Aubameyang to score this banger and give Arsenal the lead. Now all that Arsenal had to do was hold on and they would have been through. But in classic Arsenal and Arteta fashion, as you'll learn in this video, in the 119th minute of the game, El Arabi would score, putting Olympiacos ahead on away goals, and Olympiacos would go through to the next round. Arteta experienced his first of many failures at the club, as Arsenal were now out of the European competition and now needed to finish within the European places, so top 6, to play in Europe next year. Would they be able to do it? Find out
next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Nope. They didn't manage to get top 6, but they did climb the table and finish in 8th. Arteta's highlight of the season happened in the FA Cup, as Arsenal somehow managed to beat Manchester City in the semis and Chelsea in the final to win the FA Cup. This would be Arteta's first trophy as manager, and luckily for him and Arsenal, this put them back into the Europa League for next season. But it wouldn't take long for him to achieve his second piece of silverware, thanks to Arsenal beating Liverpool in the Community Shield on penalties. So right now, looking at Arteta's time in charge at Arsenal, it seems to be excellent. So excellent, in fact, it had AFTV like this.
You ain't saying shit! Meme who, blood? Meme who?
So naturally, as fans, you'd expect more from Arteta and Arsenal next season, now that he's going to get a chance to bring in players and instill his style of play at the team. Oh boy, you couldn't be more wrong. The 2020-2021 season was rough for Arsenal, to say the least. In the summer, Arteta brought in the likes of Willian from Chelsea on a free and Gabriel Magalhaes for £27 million on deadline day. Arteta and Arsenal won their first 2 games of the season, comfortably beating Fulham 3-0 on opening day. But sadly, that was the last of Arsenal's happy days. From the 28th of September to the 19th of December, Arsenal only won 2 out of 12 games. They got beat at home and away. It literally didn't matter. Burnley beat Arsenal at the Emirates. Wolves beat Arsenal at the Emirates. Villa, Leicester, City all beat Arsenal at the Emirates.
You don't even look comfortable in your own ends. Don't look comfortable. I'm around.
Similarly to Unai Emery's streak of dropping points last season, surely this poor form would lead to Arteta's sacking as manager. This run of games left Arsenal 15th.
We're fucking 15th!
It's on the
We're 15th! We are 15th, sir! We are 15th! We are 5 points away from relegation, yeah? We are closer to the bottom than the top, bro!
Somehow he kept his job, and luckily for him, he was able to pick up the team's form. Arsenal will go on an incredible run, losing only 5 games for the rest of the season, getting them back into the top half of the table, finishing 8th. Arsenal managed to make it to the semi-finals of the Europa League that season, and you'd never guess who they faced. Unai Emery.
What do you mean?
Yes, former manager of Arsenal, Unai Emery. It was the battle of the jet black hair, and as you can imagine, Arsenal were embarrassingly defeated.
Are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
This was painful for any Arsenal fan. Arteta also failed in the cup competitions, and as a result, Arsenal won no silverware that season. So just to sum up real quick, in Arteta's first full season in charge, there was no improvement as Arsenal finished in the same league position and didn't win anything. But hopefully things get better next year. The next transfer window saw Arteta go on a shopping spree, splurging 155 million on players, such as 50 million on Ben White, 30 million on Aaron Ramsdale that had just been relegated, 30 million on Odegaard, 20 million on Tomiyasu, 8 million on Tavares, 17 million on Lokonga. This was Arsenal's first season in ages that Arsenal didn't compete in any European competitions. So this would give Arsenal more chance to focus on the league as they only have one game a week. Now that Arteta got who he wanted, surely this would be Arsenal's year. You couldn't be more wrong. Arsenal had the worst ever start to a season, which consisted of losing to debutants Brentford. In the next game, Lukaku came to the Emirates and absolutely dunked on Pablo Mari and Rob Holding. Pep and City continued their ongoing bullying of Arsenal, smoking them 5-0 away. Fans had lost hope in Arteta. Arsenal looked down for the count, but they had a lifeline. Their next fixture was Norwich at home. Luckily for them, they won 1-0, and they used this momentum to carry through to the North London derby. A win in this game would have everyone believing again, and that's exactly what they did. A convincing 3-0 win gave Arsenal the confidence to continue their winning ways, until they bucked Liverpool at Anfield and got absolutely bodied. 2 more away losses in December had Arsenal in 7th, their highest league position in the previous 2 seasons. As the season progressed, Arsenal climbed up the league table slowly, and now they were positioned 4th, 3 points behind 3rd place. Arsenal now had Champions League football in their sights, but 3 losses in April in games that they could have won on paper meant that they had fallen down to 5th, joint on points with North London rivals Tottenham. They did manage to bounce back, winning their next 4 games, putting them back in the top 4 with 3 games left. The first of the 3 games was the North London derby away. They got cooked 3-0, but there was still hope. All they had to do was win against Newcastle away and they'd be back in it. But in classic Arteta fashion, he bottled it, losing 2-0 to Newcastle away in a lackluster performance. And just like that, that was it. Arteta had failed in his 2nd full season in charge. But you know what they say, 3rd time's a charm. The 2022-23 season saw Arteta reinforce Arsenal's squad with 2 Premier League winners in Zinchenko for £30 million and Gabriel Jesus for £45 million. He also brought in young creative midfielder Fabio Vieira for £30 million from Porto. He recalled Saliba from loan at Marseille, where he won League One Young Player of the Year. Now Arteta had his team with no excuses left, but there would be no need for excuses, as Arteta and Arsenal began their season with 5 straight wins, looking unrecognisable as they dominated every game. They did have a little blip in their performances, thanks to Antony and Rashford killing Arsenal at Old Trafford. Arsenal managed to keep their head high, continuing their run, smashing everything that came in their way. By the time it reached the 2022 World Cup break, Arsenal had played 16 games and won 14, only drawing once and losing once. This is the stuff of champions. Arsenal were leading the league, 5 points clear of 2nd place Manchester City. When they were back from the World Cup break, Arsenal didn't lose any momentum, getting straight back to it until February. Once it hit February, Arsenal began to show some cracks in their armour. The first came as Arsenal had a chance to go 8 points clear, but a 1-0 loss at Goodison Park kept them in City's reaching distance. Arsenal couldn't shrug off their bad form, suffering a 1-1 draw at the Emirates to Brentford, a team that they had previously beat 3-1 away early in the season. But their misery didn't end, as Arsenal would host 2nd place Manchester City at the Emirates, and what took place was nothing short of a disaster. In the 24th minute, Takahiro Tomiyasu would attempt a pass back to Ramsdale, but the pass was short, falling to the one and only Kevin De Bruyne. He dinked the keeper from 20 yards out, as Ramsdale was caught in no man's land. Arsenal managed to get one back and equalise, but 2 second-half goals, courtesy of Jack Grealish and Haaland, took the game out of reach, and Arsenal were no longer top of the league for the first time in the entire season. However, Arsenal didn't let the loss affect them, as they won their next 7 games, returning them back to the top of the table by match week 29. Arsenal's next game was at Anfield, a stadium in which Arteta has never won. Arsenal took an early lead, scoring twice in the first half, but would bottle it as Liverpool would score 2 in the second half to share the points at Anfield, cutting Arsenal's lead from Manchester City down to 6 points. This story was repeated in Arsenal's next game at the London Stadium. Arsenal would shoot themselves in their foot, cutting it down to 4 points. Unluckily for Arsenal, they were unable to wake up from their nightmare of draws, as they couldn't beat bottom of the table Southampton at home. But Arsenal had one final lifeline. They would have to beat Manchester City away, as what Pep described as the Premier League final. Fans of both sides were hoping and praying, knowing that this was the decider for the title, and the game went exactly how you'd expect. This guy violated Arsenal, scoring one of the cleanest goals I've ever seen. He literally passed it in. It got so bad that Haaland took his hair out and still scored. Manchester City just looked like men against boys, and unfortunately for Arsenal, they had bottled the league. Despite leading the Premier League for 248 days, the most for a team who failed to win the title in English top flight history. If that alone doesn't tell you Mikel Arteta is a failure, I don't know what will. It didn't get any better for them in any other competition. Most shockingly, in the Europa League, Arsenal crash out in the round of 16 to Sporting Lisbon. They would draw both legs and concede the screamer, forcing them to penalties in which they lost. And that brings us all the way to today. At the current time of filming, Arteta has spent another £208 million, making the total spending amount over £500 million. And as it stands, Arsenal don't look like they're going to win the league. They're out of the FA Cup and the League Cup. I doubt they'll win the Champions League. And so this will make it Arteta's 4th full season in charge with no silverware. This man has bottled top 4, he's bottled the league, bottled the Europa League. Honestly, he's practically a
specialist in failure.
I believe he's done all he can for Arsenal, but it's the end of the road for him at this club. I don't believe he can get Arsenal over the line and make them one of Europe's elite that are able to compete in every competition, just like City and Liverpool are every season. But hey, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours down in the comments below, and thank you for watching.